Hi, welcome back. I'm Dr. Lindner. We're going to be looking at how blood flows through the heart for our students at Adelphi University for our anatomy lab. So let's take a look at the heart. I'm going to draw out a very simple picture. And I make the heart this way for a very particular reason. If we look at how I'm drawing this, you can see that I'm intentionally making the left side of the heart larger and thicker than the right side of the heart. So the myocardium, this muscular layer of the right side, is a lot thicker than the left side because the left side of the heart itself, is like two pumps in one. The left side dealing with systemic circulation, while your right side is dealing with pulmonary circulation, meaning the only job the right side has is to pump blood to the lungs to pick up oxygen. While the left side of the heart, it's taking that oxygenated blood and now pumping it to all the systems of the body. So let's take a look at some of the structures here. We're going to have blood that gets into the heart, into the right atrium, by way of the superior vena cava. And also blood comes from the lower extremity into the right atrium through the inferior vena cava. Again, deoxygenated blood, red blood cells that don't carry oxygen are going to be pulled into the right atrium. The pressure builds up in that right atrium, and this valve is going to open up to allow blood to flow into your left ventricle. Your right ventricle. So from the right atrium, blood flows into the right ventricle by flowing through this valve. That valve is referred to as the tricuspid valve. 3 cusps to it. So now we have pressure in the right ventricle that builds up, and when the pressure in the ventricles build up, it will pump the blood from inferior to superior. From the atriums, blood flew from the atriums into the ventricles from superior to inferior, but from the ventricles, blood will pump up from inferior to superior. And that blood is going to go through a valve here that's called the Pulmonary Semilunar. As the blood pumps up, this valve is now forced shut. That's what gives you the lub sound, lub-dub, lub-dub. It's the closure of that tricuspid valve. As that valve shuts, this valve opens, and blood is now pushed upward through the pulmonary trunk. After the pulmonary trunk, blood is diverted into your right and left pulmonary artery, which will go into the lungs, and a right pulmonary artery, which also goes into the lungs. So blood is pushed up through the pulmonary trunk into both pulmonary arteries, a right and left pulmonary artery, into the lungs. So that's the lungs. Oxygen is picked up. After the oxygen is picked up, blood is now forced into the left atrium from both the right lung and the left lung. So let's make these vessels. I'm making 2 from here and 2 from here. These are now called the left pulmonary veins and the right pulmonary veins. On the models, you will notice that the pulmonary veins appear red because they are now carrying oxygenated blood. On the model, you'll notice that the pulmonary trunk is blue and the pulmonary arteries are blue because they're carrying deoxygenated blood. So now we've got pulmonary veins that are pooling oxygenated blood into the left atrium. When the pressure builds up in the atrium, this valve opens and the blood will dump into your left ventricle. Again, when that blood in the ventricles start to fill up, it will also pump blood from inferior to superior, pumping blood up this way, inferior to superior, through this valve. So as that blood is pushed upward, this valve is now closed. When this is forced closed, your semilunar opens. This semilunar is called the aortic semilunar. So that's the aortic semilunar. On the other side was the pulmonary semilunar. So this comes up. Let's follow that up into the aorta and the arch of the aorta. So here's the aorta. This is the arch of the aorta. And off the arch of the aorta, we have 3 blood vessels. I'm going to make one obviously going to the right side, and we'll make 2 going more to the left. The one that goes to the right is the brachiocephalic, and the 2 to the left, this one here being the left common carotid and the left subclavian artery. This will then continue down into the thoracic aorta, all the way down into the abdominal aorta, and then that will split going to the lower extremities into the common iliacs that will split to an internal and external common iliac that will feed the entire lower extremity. I will also point out, and I'll go over this with the models with you, that in the ventricles we have myocardium, we have muscle, rough muscle down in here, called trabecular carnae. You have them in both the right and left ventricles, trabecular carnae. And off these trabecular carnae, there are these little mounds or little hills. And those mounds and hills are called papillary muscles. And these papillary muscles are going to attach to these valves by way of tendons called chordae tendineae. So these chordae tendineae muscles attach to these valves and prevent them from over-closing into an open position, which can potentially cause a murmur. Okay? The muscles that you find in the atrium, these are called pectinate muscles. In the ventricles, they're called trabecular carnae. Okay, please stay tuned, and you will look forward to looking at these structures now in the heart model. Okay? Thank you.